All right. Okay. I would love you guys to pop into chat over the next few minutes and let me know what your recruiting goals are for next year. If you're a team operator or you're involved in recruiting in some way, I'd love to kind of know, like, are most of you here wanting to hire 6 people? Are you wanting to hire 60 people next year? And so I just kind of want to get a feel of what you guys want to get out of today. Is it kind of 2 a month? Is it, 20 a month? So, let me know on chat. And I'm going to throw on my glasses because I'm super old now. So Michelle wants 6 agents. Okay, and that's for brokerage. That's great. Anyone else want to get brave and throw on chat what the recruiting goal is next year? Sarah, 3 per month. So you want 36 gross. Sarah, stay on there. Do you have a net goal? So if it's 36 gross, what's your net goal? Enrique, you want 50 net? Just clarifying, you want 50 net next year. Okay, Sarah, I love that. I love that. Bridget Franklin, you guys, if you're in the Seattle area, she's an amazing real estate agent, and you have to look to try to do a deal with her. Okay, Bridget, we're going to have drinks and dinner, and we're going to have a one-on-one on this, aren't we? Okay, good. And thank you for being on as a team admin. This is going to be great. You're going to love this. You want to hire 2 a month, leading towards experienced agents. That's great. Okay, net 10. These are great numbers. Net 10 for 2 a month I just want to encourage you on those numbers. You have 25 now and you want to get to 50 net. That's a big year, Enrique, and I relate to that because I'm trying to go from 20 to 40. And you're not going to love my numbers, but I want you to brace yourself because you're going to learn a lot. Okay. This is great, you guys. Thanks for playing. My name's Vija Williams. For those of you who I don't know, I've been a professional real estate recruiter since 2018. That's what I do, and that's what I will always do. It doesn't mean that I don't do other things. I have a real estate team. I used to run 8 national real estate franchise offices in the Puget Sound area and the Seattle area. And we went from about 1,250 agents to 1,770 agents in 2.5 years. And I've recruited hundreds of agents to my team on top of that. So I've recruited for both brokerages and teams. This is my jam. As such, I created a recruiting course with Ben Kinney. It's an 8-week Zoom, January and February. And so I have been creating it and kind of finalizing the content. And I thought we should end the year this year on our last Power Playbooks because Sarita Dua is playing in Thailand. So I figured we would end it on recruiting, and I'm going to have information on the course at the end of this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the 5 major steps that you probably are not doing that you need to do for your recruiting. And I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. One of these has nothing to do with recruiting. So put that in your cap. I'm going to jam through this content super quick because what I'm going to do is spend the last part of this with my friend and my associate, Frank Klesitz. Say hi, Frank.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Via.
Frank is a marketing genius. He is my marketing genius as well. He can be yours too. And we're going to talk about some really cool sourcing ideas and video and nurturing ideas that I'm working on with Frank, and he's doing with a lot of his clients. So are you guys ready? I would say this. I would say get your notepads out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jam through the content, and then I'm going to go back on chat and I'm going to answer questions. Are you guys good with that? So throw your questions on chat as you have them. And then at the end, I'm going to go back and I'm going to scroll down while Frank's talking, and then I'll go back and answer them, right? So if you don't put them in, you're going to forget them. All right. Here we go. A little slide deck action here. All right. So you're going to end this session today with a little bit of a playbook. But if you come to the recruiting course, January and February, you're going to have a very complete SOP playbook, right? It's going to be covering everything that you need to know. Let's start with a very basic one. That's why I asked you guys on chat. This may sound really, really basic, and so basic that you're like, Via, you have 5 points and you're really going to start it with this one? And the answer is yes, I am. And here's why. You guys have really good, realistic gross and net goals. I heard them on the chat, right? And I was really glad to see that. But I want to give you a dose of reality that you may not want to hear. And what I find when I start giving these doses of reality is that sometimes you can go, she's so wrong. My numbers are different. And you'll probably go to sleep tonight and you'll wake up tomorrow and go, dang it, I think she was right. That's what I usually hear about this, right? A little bit of resistance up front and then acceptance down the road. And here is what the rule of threes are and what likely your team size and your gross recruiting goals need to be bigger than you think. Okay. The rule of threes is that for every 10 agents that you have in your brokerage or your team, and by the way, for all of you brokerage owners, we'll touch on that a little bit. You have three cohorts of agents. Okay. You have your Navy SEALs at the top. Now, brokerages, it can be 10 to 15% on the top. And this is kind of what we would call our capping agents, or our, if you're in a capping model, depending on your market, in the Seattle area, this might be, they're doing 8 to 10, 12 deals a year. To me, someone selling 12 deals a year in a high value market, like a coastal market, like Seattle, Los Angeles, New York, Boston, they're a Navy SEAL. That's a really good. A lot of you guys, that needs to be 24 a year, right? If you're in kind of a lower price point market, but these are the agents on your team or your brokerage who are rock solid, top of the roster. Teams, this can be upwards of 30%. So the range can really be between 10 and 30% here. The average is about 20. So with the rule of threes, these are approximates. I have found over the years on teams, it's really around 15 to 20%. And then you can really drive that and get good and get to 30% on that. Okay. Now, the middle group is kind of your bread and butter. And what I say to you, brokerage owners and team owners, is the middle group is the group that you are likely super frustrated with. And these are sometimes people that you righteously get rid of on your team. I mean, because this is a group that's selling 4 to 6 homes a year, 2 to 4 homes a year in a higher value market, maybe 4, 6, 8 homes a year. Maybe if you're in a pretty low price point market, it's even 10 to 12 homes a year. It's not very many homes in your market. And I want to encourage you guys, instead of fighting that, to embrace that. And to say to yourself, if my cappers or my Navy SEALs are going to pay the bills every month, my profit is actually going to come from this 50%. And don't get rid of them. Just have an environment that fosters them. If they're a vampire and they're kind of wrecking culture, that's a different conversation. But mostly they're not. Mostly they're quite happy doing what they're doing. They're on their way up or they're on their way down. They're in a flux. The following year, we expect that they're going to move into Navy SEAL status, right? So the cohort is the top group, and then a middle group, and then the bottom is what you don't want me to tell you. And that is the bottom 30% that will never make it and they won't sell a house next year. So for all of you guys who are like, I want to net 20 agents, some of the questions I would encourage you guys to ask to yourself is, do you want 20 agents, or are you talking to me about 20 producing agents? Because if you're talking to me about 20 producing agents, for every 10 agents that you hire, 3 will automatically not make it. You have 7 potentially that might be producing agents. So 21. So my rule of thumb is you probably need to recruit at least double to 2.5 times gross what you need net. And side note, there's really no right or wrong ratio there. Just know what your ratio is, right? It's just math. It's just knowing your numbers, just like we train our sales agents. So, you can kind of walk in the year saying, okay, we're gonna gross recruit 3 a month, and we think most likely we're gonna keep one out of those 3 is going to be a producing agent, and maybe a half out of that 3 is going to be on their way up because we're going to recruit them at the end of the year or whatnot. And all you have to do is measure and determine what your numbers are. And your numbers may not be exactly 20, 50, 30, but I bet you $1 million they are right along those lines, right? The last thing I wanted to say on this note is that the reason I say for every 10 agents is this doesn't typically start being the math if you have 4 or 5 agents. That's a little small. We need to, it tends to start at about 10 agents when we have a little bit bigger of a sample. So when you're at 20, 30, 40, 50 agents, you are probably getting your rosters out right now, or just starting to do mental math, and you're going, yeah, that's about right. That's about right. When I ran brokerages, not running teams, so just talking to the broker owners here, if I had an office, it was about 12 offices by our peak. And if I had an office that was at 25% cappers, I was super happy, and that was a profitable office. So 25 would be a really high level goal for a brokerage. For a team, there's no reason you shouldn't have 25%. We have a lot, it's easier value proposition on a team than it is a general brokerage, unless you're a general brokerage that gives leads and whatnot. Does that make sense? Everyone kind of clear on that? Not what you want to hear necessarily, but it's the truth. And that's partly why I pulled Frank on, because we have to talk about SOPs and making our sourcing just part of our day-to-day and not wrecking us. We always have to be sourcing. So I pulled Frank on. All right. I do have a spreadsheet that I'm going to go over with my class in January and February, but this is my personal spreadsheet. What you don't see on the right for privacy purposes is I actually list the roster of who I think is going to be in each cohort. And this is what I do both for my business planning and for my recruiting planning. And so I'm going to teach you guys how to use this spreadsheet, but it's basically taking it by cohort, measuring what you actually are. So you can see on my real estate team, I'm at 17, 48, and 35, right? And I would say that for all of you guys who have recently recruited a bunch of agents, your bottom might be a little higher, but it typically evens out to about 30%. Okay. Feels really weird to not have my my like at this point, Sarita would be jumping in and like asking questions and stuff. So it's interesting. Okay, number 2. What do I mean by this? Okay, you have to make a fundamental decision on how you're going to spend your time and money. So for a lot of you guys, you had some really big recruiting goals. And so if you have a big recruiting goal, or you already have a large team, you already probably have a back-end filter system. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is a back-end filter system is a really either automated or dialed in, baked in agent onboarding and launch that doesn't really get affected. Personnel doesn't really get pulled. It doesn't really wreck everything you're doing, ruin production if you start bringing in more agents, because this launch and this onboarding is going to happen anyway. That's what I would call a back-end filter system. For those of you who are just starting your team or on the smaller side, you have to spend some time before you even make your recruiting numbers and decide and know how you're going to launch and onboard these agents and get them into production. The hardest part of having a real estate team or brokerage is getting agents into production. We call those agent productivity systems, right? If anything on a real estate team, anything on a brokerage, nothing matters except for agent productivity at the end of the day, right? Because with agent productivity, we are making income, and we can use that income to throw money at problems. If we don't have agents producing, we don't have a business, right? So I want to encourage you, if you don't have a great back-end system, meaning if it is going to wreck you a little bit to onboard and launch agents, and we're going to go through this in the course, but my comment to you would be, you want to probably spend more time upfront before the hire, really making sure you're hiring the right people. And by the right people, I mean the right persona, the right behavioral profile, the right experience level, but also the right personality level. Because a lot of these guys, if you're actively in production and your livelihood is reliant on you being in production, they're going to probably have to shadow you, and you're going to have to apprentice them a little bit. You kind of have to like them. And they need to represent you. They need to represent your brand. You need to be pretty comfortable bringing them on appointments, and they need to be learning based and coachable, at that stage of your business growth. And so you probably need to spend a little bit more time up front. If you're Enrique or Vija, and we're going from 20 to 40, or he's going from 50 to $1 million, we already have baked in launch programs in 90 days. I can kind of I can kind of put people in. It's not really going to wreck me. I could probably bring in 8 agents a month and it really wouldn't wreck me at this point because I have that running in the background. So I don't have to put as much time in up front of my hiring. Does that make sense? Someone put in chat. I just want to make sure you guys are tracking with me. Does that make sense? Whatever you're
Makes sense to
doing
me,
on the
Vija.
back end. What was that, Frank?
So it makes very good sense.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to get some feedback there. So take some time. We'll go into that, in detail, January and February. But for those of you who aren't going to be on that, that's okay. Just take some time thinking about, look, what am I going to actually do when we get the agents? And what kind of agents are we really geared for? Some of you are going to just be more comfortable with new licensees, for a variety of reasons. Some of you are just going to kind of get to that point where you're like, look, I can't take them unless they know how to write a purchase and sale agreement, and you have to just really take some time and really think about how you're going to launch them into production, how you're going to keep them into production, what that looks like. And by the way, you're going to need that during the recruiting process so you can tell them that, right? That's part of how you're recruiting them. Okay. All right. So couple of you, it was really interesting. The other reason I asked you all what your recruiting goals were is that I wanted to see how you answered. And there's no right or wrong answer, but I am a big believer in setting a recruiting cadence, even more than a gross goal. Now, you might have recalled I was talking to Enrique. I'm like, hey, Enrique, you're at 50. That's awesome. Like, I want to go from 20 to 40. I have a goal. Like, I have a score that I want to hit at the end of the year. But really what I most focus on is, can we recruit at a cadence of 2 to 3 a month? Because my belief is if you can set a cadence and just get consistent over time, you become unbeatable. So Bridget, if you just do nothing else, but you don't make recruiting an event, make it a process. If you bake a process into your world, into your life, and you are constantly, perpetually bringing in 2 to 3 gross recruits a month, you'll be unstoppable. And all of you guys are in the same boat. So just think in terms of, the focusing question would be, how can I create a process whereby I can always in perpetuity recruit to that cadence? And then what we work on, and do this with some of my coaching clients, is how do you go from 2 a month to 4 a month? How do you go from 4 a month to 6 a month? How do you go from 6 a month to 8 to 10 a month? And that's really what I want you guys to focus on is operationalizing this. Fair? And I know we have some ops here, and that's just how to think about it, right? How to think about it is what does my team need to do and my brokerage need to do to make this an operational project, process. The really successful real estate companies and franchises that are, winning and recruiting, all of them have a pressure to monthly goals and monthly process, right? There's a pressure, there's things happening in the background, there's some prospecting, there's some marketing, and we'll talk about some of that with Frank. All right. That was a quickie. We're going to skip that one. Number 4 has nothing to do with recruiting, but it has everything to do with recruiting. And number 4 is you have to know what you're recruiting to. And by the way, side note, it's really hard to talk about recruiting without talking about all of the other systems of your team or brokerage. They're all so interchanged, aren't they? Because you can't really talk about recruiting unless you're talking about per agent productivity or agent productivity systems. And, it all goes together. So you have to nail down your value proposition, and you have to know, and here's the focusing question. If you're taking notes, here's what you write down. You write down, why, if someone says to you, Bridget, why would I join your brokerage? How would you answer that? Enrique, Anne, Christopher, why would I join your team? Why would I join your brokerage? Okay, what's your answer, right? And you have to know that. And part of it is you have to know all of your value propositions, because every candidate is different. And, someone's value proposition might be one thing and someone else's might be another. When you know your team and your brokerage, though, and you know what you're really strong at and you know what you're weak at, what starts happening is you can target the persona that's going to fit you the best, especially if you're new in this. If you're a smaller team or brokerage and you're kind of in your more beginning stages of growth, right? Then, hire people that are going to succeed. Hire people that are going to win. Be more selective. Spend more time on the front end before they're even hired to get the right people who are going to thrive. If you're a Zillow Flex team, hire people that are going to be extraordinary and be hungry and want to work company leads like that and convert. If you're a sphere of influence team and you're going to be handing appointments and handing referrals to a couple agents and you're just beginning your growth, then work really hard on hiring those people because your value proposition is going to be that, right? So whatever it is, just know what it is. I believe that in order to know your value proposition, you have to be very dialed in to your lead generation model. This happens to be places because that's my world, but you can take this framework and you could take a screenshot of this and copy it for yourself, right? It's all just models and frameworks. And what I mean by that is when I'm sitting down and I'm talking to an agent, I am essentially having a business conversation with them, and I'm showing and sharing with them how they're going to get their business. So when they come to me and they say, hey, Vija, I sold, 6 homes last year at ABC Realty, and I'm interested in, maybe looking at what a team looks like. So I'll say, great, that's great. Where did those 6 deals come from? And we all know here, any of you guys who recruit, that it's all going to be sphere, and maybe an open house might be thrown in there, right? If they came from another team, you might see an internet lead, but almost always it's sphere, and sometimes open house is not a lot though. Surprising how little sell at an open house. And so, I always try to break down where they got their business, and I say, okay, well, what are your goals? What's your ultimate goal? And then what would be a really successful year for you next year? By the way, everyone who recruits a lot, put in chat, what does everybody say? What is the one number for income that they all say? I want to see if Seattle's any different from all your other markets. When I say, how much do you want to make? What would be a good year? It's always 100K. Why is it always 100K? So it doesn't matter where the market is. Am I right? Isn't that funny? Not so funny. It's always that. Is every time I've asked that, by the way, like when I've taught, it's always the same answer. So let's use 100K. So, I know exactly how many homes they need to sell because I know my average price point and I know my average commission and I know what my split with my team is. And so what I focus on is, okay, that's great. That's going to be, 10 teams. Don't hate me. We have a high price point in Seattle. That's going to be 10 sales, to get there. And you did 6. So what I want to spend time on today, if that's okay with you, is walking through where that business is going to come from and what that's going to look like on the team. And so what this slide is, this is really my favorite slide that I use, is my lead generation model. These are all the 6 sources of business that Via Real Estate has. And what I do is I can spend time walking them through all of the ways we're going to double what they sold with their sphere with us versus on their own, by the way, because we do so many things with their sphere that they're just not doing on their own. We talk about open houses. It's one of the biggest areas that we win with our agents when they come to us between our training and our tech and all of the things we deliver for open houses. I can recruit to that. I can do tech demos and show them samples. Doing tech demos and doing value proposition demos is there's an art to it, and you need to show them what's in it for them and show them how it improves their life. That you shouldn't feature dump. This is not an invitation to feature dump. This is you being able to say, hey, Frank, it's interesting. So you sold 4 from your sphere. Did you have a CRM this past year when you did that?
No, which one's the best one?
No, the real answer. So anyone here who recruits a lot, we all know what's a CRM.
Yeah,
God
which
bless
is
you for
CRM.
role playing, Frank. They don't even
Yeah.
I love that you said that, but we're not even there. But in the average agent, it's more like what CR what? Anyone who's been in a lot of recruiting appointments is probably laughing right now because they know. But and even if they do know, but team operators all know CRMs. And that's who this crowd is. The agents just aren't aware of it. And when I say, oh, it's, database, where do you keep your database? If they have it, it's either on a spreadsheet or it's with their company's database. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to lie. I honor that. I mean, I was like that when I was a baby agent as well, right? And so, at best, they're sporadically sending things out. A lot of them say they get their business from social media. And, those are organic posts. And that's really turned into 36 touch. If you ask me, social media has. They've had no open house training whatsoever, or very minimal. They don't use any tech towards open house. So what I'm doing when I talk about value proposition, and we're going into presenting that, what I'm really doing is showing them how we can double what they did on their own with all of these tools, right? So it's what's in it for them. How is it going to improve their life? And I really do focus on what we give as a team. In my case, I'm a team, what we give to them and how that improves their life and how it's going to increase their business. Then I do spend some time on team leads, but really team leads, we never want to be a focus. We have to provide leads as team owners. I understand that, but that speaks for itself. That's pretty easy. I like to focus on their self-gen and how we can boost that and plus it and train them and give them tools so that they can have a better life. And we're doing back end marketing for them so that they're getting more beef out of their database. Fair? So that's really what I like to focus on. We can get more detail into that. So you have to know what your value proposition is. And in order to know that, you really have to know what your lead model is, what your lead gen model is. How does your team get its business? If you're new and you're just starting a team and you're the team owner and you're talking about your first one or two agents, the value proposition is they're your OG. They will be your first one. They are getting all of your overflow leads. It's the best way to get into real estate. It is a dream come true. You are giving the biggest gift to an agent. So you should never feel worried about being on the beginning stages of growing your team. You are offering what none of us can, that first shot for an agent to be your apprentice. You are giving them the biggest gift they will ever have in their career. And I hope you view it that way. For all of you newbies here that are just thinking, it's time for me to start a team. It's such a great place to be. So I just want to kind of go over that I know that on one sense, going over value proposition, it doesn't have anything to do with recruiting. And on the other hand, it has everything to do with recruiting. You have to know what you're recruiting to. All right, Frank, you've been good.
Yes.
Now you're up. So I'm just going to share this. I think you've seen this before, Frank. I can't remember if you saw me teach this last time, but we've talked a lot about personas, and I think there's a lot of ways to define personas. This is kind of the one that we tend to go off of in our camp, which is roughly dividing the agent population into 5 personas. You could add a 6, which would be if you're a team, bringing small teams in. However, I don't love that. We can talk about that later if you want to ask me about it later and we have time. The first bucket over here, Frank, would be unlicensed and new licensees. So people that are interested in a career in real estate, either thinking about, enrolling in real estate school, or they just got their license. Those we tend to funnel to career nights and just kind of have an ongoing thing kind of on the side, right? I don't meet with them unless there's a reason to. Sometimes I do, by the way. I mean, if you have a really successful person that has had a really successful sales career and I meet with them sometimes. The second persona is probably the most popular right now. It's my favorite. It's a lot of our favorites, which is that low producing agent, that anywhere from 2 to 8 or 10 deals a year. Doesn't really matter how long they've been in real estate, but they know enough to put a purchase and sale agreement, contract together. They know enough to have been kicked in the teeth a few times. They know enough to understand this isn't easy, and they thought it was. They're a lot of us, for a lot of teams, they would be our favorites. Rising stars are kind of that, 8 to 12, 15, they're getting there. They're starting to get constraints on time. Lead flow is a little less of a concern as time is at that point. So they're kind of that, and now they're starting to think about leverage, and leverage could either be getting an assistant, getting a part-time assistant, getting a TC or whatnot. Productive agents are the big dogs. The whales of our market, and legacy agents are the OGs. They've been there in your market for years, and they're kind of thinking about their exit and retirement. They might be my second favorite persona because I've seen a lot of success over the last few years with teams essentially instead of the old-fashioned way of kind of having one person buy your book of business, a team will say, come onto the team. You can cherry pick whoever you want, but we're going to work your database like it's a lead source. And, you can pick the agents that get the inbound, leads if you want. You can cherry pick it if you want, but we can slide you out basically. So Frank, with that said, any other thoughts on personas before we kind of move to sourcing?
Question for you. I mean, probably the two ways to know someone's production is maybe as a close proxy is maybe look up on Zillow. Since
Broker
you have
metrics
X
is what most of
broker
us would
metrics.
use, or the
Yep.
MLS. Yeah.
MLS. Yep. That's it.
Yeah. But is this do these buckets make sense to you? I mean, like some of the
Oh,
stuff.
totally.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I can pull that up later, but that's the recruiting course if you want to. It's recruitagents.co. I can put it on the chat. So Frank, I think my first question to you would be, where are you finding, how are your clients sourcing right now? You kind of went into it a little bit, but what are your most effective ways?
And by source, we mean just generating names of agents that might be open to taking an appointment about their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably the number one and the fastest and the easiest are the job boards. And
Yeah.
you have lower producers, but I think from what I hear is you're getting some pretty real, those first couple buckets you shared on the job boards. Your Indeed, your LinkedIn, Recruiter AI, right? Running all different types of ads. And applicants come in and you get a phone number, you get an email, you follow up to establish credibility and trust and go for the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like the easiest one where someone would start. Second,
Can I add something to that really quick?
Yeah.
So I agree. I love that. For those of you here that are at scale already, if you're kind of at a team or a brokerage of 20 plus, I would say maybe 25 plus, your workflow might look a little different. So we didn't really go over recruiting process, but a lot of you guys might do the screening call or even just automated text, an email inviting them into a team meeting or a weekly event. And that's okay too. There's no right or wrong. I find that when you're just starting out, it's one-on-one appointments, and then it starts sliding into a little bit of one of my clients right now, they're going for, they want 100 by the end of next year. I'm coaching them. They're so automated now, it's going right into automated video. And if they watch the video, I think they're at like a 75% higher rate if they can get them to watch the video. So, you can automate some of that. We're just giving examples of the typical team. Frank's right. It would typically be a screening into an appointment. Sorry, Frank, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so I think anyone here could just say, for example, go to Indeed, type in real estate agent, and take a look at all the ads your competitors are running. They're all pretty similar. And applicants are pretty much going apply, 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 get in the action, get those leads, and fight for the opportunities and the appointments of someone looking for a gig.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
second one,
If you apply speed to lead to those, Frank, just like we do on our team leads, and we are super fast, and whoever on your team is following up, in my case, it's our DOO. If you apply speed to lead, you will win the appointment every time, because I have noticed teams don't apply speed to lead to recruiting like they do their real estate business.
yeah, it's like any job. Someone calls you back after applying. It's like, oh, especially quickly.
Yeah.
All right. So second source, and this is where I spend a lot of our time on, is everybody who kind of knows you as an agent. Any licensed agents that maybe you've worked with, agents on the other side of the transaction, agents that know who you are. It's kind of what I would call your warm agent met list or your agent database. And I think what Vija you want me to share is like some of the ways to build that, because if you were to ask anybody on this webinar today, hey, where's your agent database? Specifically, all the agents that you know or who know you. And where's that spreadsheet of their first name, last name, brokerage, email, phone number, maybe even their production or the persona you would classify them into. Where is that? And usually the answer for about everybody is, I don't have one. Right, Via?
Well, yeah, except for me, but yes,
Except for you. Oh, yeah. Except for you.
yes,
So I'd
that's all
like
right.
to be just probably go through and just talk about how to build that.
Yeah,
Sound good?
let's do it.
All right. So let's say you got to build your agent list for some sourcing. So again, we have applicants coming from the job boards. That's a really easy place to start. Now it's like I got to kind of gather all my Mets and these people that I know. So the first thing I would do is I would go to your broker and I would say, can you give me a list of all the agents of all
Is that mine or yours, Frank?
relationship there where they at least know who you are. So if you would at least send them an email or something helpful, it likely wouldn't get clicked as report spam. They would actually pay attention to it because they recognize the name and they know who you are. Okay.
Yep.
Second thing, and this is what something I'm going to share that is simple to do. Most real estate agents are friends with other real estate agents on Facebook. I mean, if I were to go on your Facebook profile, just look at your friends, chances are, typically speaking, it's a lot of other realtors. All right. And looking at someone's Facebook friends, it's a really fast memory jogger to find out which agents you know, which agents that you might know you and that you're kind of connected with.
Mm-hmm.
So just follow me. If you just go log into Facebook right now, facebook.com, and just friends in the upper left and click all friends, you'll see this face pile of like all these people. And the people near the top are the people that Facebook thinks like you're more close to than not. And chances are a lot of it, some of them are realtors, either locally or even around the country. And around the country is fine for other agent referrals and influence too, beyond the scope of what we're talking about here today. But you can dump all that information. So there's a way to export Facebook friends. Google it. Facebook directly allows you to do this. They allow you to download all your personal information right from Facebook, and you'll get a spreadsheet of the names of literally all of your Facebook friends. Problem is you're not going to get their contact information. This is where you, or maybe you hire someone, and follow me on this, basically Googles every single name to find out if they're a realtor. You can pretty much type in any person's name on Facebook with the word realtor at the end of it into Google, and it'll show up if they are. So it's kind of a yes or no if they're a realtor or not. Okay, the ones that are realtors and you're connected with on Facebook, let's do a little Google search and a little sleuthing to find out their email address, or their phone number, or their brokerage, or their production from the MLS, or a close proxy of homes sold on Zillow. And let's put it into a spreadsheet. Going through all of your Facebook friends to find out who the realtors are you're connected with, and then looking up their contact information to put into a spreadsheet is probably one of the most painful and most difficult and painstaking ideas of how to actually build your list. What I'm telling you is once you build that, you'll have a real asset that with a simple marketing campaign to warm those people up to take appointments with you to in some type of proactive way is really powerful. Anything you want to say on that, Via, about looking up
Yeah, well, I have a
realtors
question
from
for
friends
you.
of it? Yeah.
For those of us who don't really use Facebook, I mean, I forget about Facebook. It's, and I'm like in that, I'm too old for Snapchat and TikTok. Like I can't, but I'm Instagram. And so we can just go to our
I
Instagram.
think so.
Can we
I believe so. If you go to, I believe so.
Okay.
Again, there's a way to, it's in the privacy settings of Facebook, download my information. There's a whole, I mean, you can download all your past Facebook messages. You can download all the Facebook groups you've been in. It's pretty extensive.
My
Pretty
other
sure you can get
question
that too.
is on Facebook, is that just for friends or is it for my followers as well?
I think you can get both.
That'd be big.
Yeah.
That would
I haven't done it.
actually
I haven't
be
done it myself for a while, but everyone here, literally, I mean, there's
big.
nothing stopping you. This is inside Facebook. You can download all this information. The point is you're just going to get a spreadsheet of names.
Yeah, and I would just have my VA get on there and just my
Mhm.
experiences, how we've gotten a lot of our list is I think you said this earlier, type in the name plus realtor.
Yeah.
And then something comes up. I mean, realtors
It
publish their
should. Yeah.
information.
It's like 99%. If they're selling anything,
There is on.
it'll show up on realtor.com or Zillow profile or their website or something. Yep.
Agreed. That's
And then
great.
now you know that they're an agent. And then you can go a little bit further and look up their contact information online. There's a bunch of ways and put it into a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay. So we have we have kind of exporting Facebook and potentially
Mhm.
Instagram. And then we have the job boards. I'm a massive fan of the job boards. I use Recruiter AI. At any given time, I've got 4, 5, or 6 job ads running with slightly different targeting. You know, it's all the same job. We want agents, but each one looks slightly different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think you have job boards. I think you have your sphere or agent connections of people, of agents that you know. And just a great memory jogger of that is like having someone look up the agents that you're Facebook friends with.
Mhm.
I'll give you a third source that's really nice for sourcing. And this is if you're going after some bigger players in your market. But you should really check out Zillow Agent Finder. It's great. I mean, just go to Zillow.com, click Agent Finder, then type in your city. And last time I checked, there's probably 25 pages of agents in larger markets. I think it stops at 25 pages. There's about 10 agents per page. That's about 250 agents. And probably speaking, it's a close proxy. Those are the top 250
Why would
agents
you
in
do
most
that versus
markets.
like a broker metrics or MLS? I'm curious, is it because they're paying Zillow?
Access. Yeah, they're paying Zillow, but it's also a matter of like, do people have broker metrics? Or do they know how to go in like pull the MLS? There's also this level of the human side of it is putting the photos in front of them. Like I've sat down and done this for so many times, like having to build the agent list. When you log into Facebook and you actually click your friends, you start scrolling down all these faces. It takes this like esoteric idea of an agent list that makes it very real and you see the relationships. Whereas if you go to Zillow Agent Finder and you start scrolling through and looking at all the faces and the teams and the names, it makes it very real of like, hey, I know that person. I'm pretty sure that person knows me. Add them to the list.
Hmm.
So if you go through, just like, someone would go through all the agents in your Facebook friends, if you go through all 25 pages on Zillow Agent Finder and just start circling, theoretically, anyone that would know you, if they got an email from you, would they be like, oh, I think I know that person? Add them to your list.
Hmm.
I would say your best agent met list is the people that would not click report spam if you sent them an email. They know who you are. That's
Yeah.
my definition as a marketer.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So I guess, I mean, we can stop right there. I mean, those are fantastic sources, besides like a real estate school. But online job boards, agents that are connected with on Facebook, Zillow Agent Finder, the work of getting all those people who might know who you are into a spreadsheet with the proper contact information. And then the question becomes, now what?
Now what? Because I was just gonna say, so like,
Yeah.
I have a list of what is mine, 3 or 4,000. It's not
Mhm.
big enough. I want 40,000, as you know. But and I think we all struggle with content. I mean, it is so deceptively challenging to spit out content regularly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta warm these peers, these competitors, you know, peers up to the idea of taking an appointment with you to talk about their business. You have to warm them up to the idea that, oh, I can really learn something from this person. They can really guide me. I really can look up to them as a role model. I can see them as a leader. That's really what it is. I see this person as someone who can lead me.
Hmm.
And generally speaking, is you start publishing helpful tips, educational content, whatever it may be, a podcast, videos, you start answering commonly asked questions, you start like educating the list,
Hmm.
answering commonly asked questions, share what you're doing, providing helpful insight, creating content so good that arguably someone would be willing to pay for it. And
Okay, so for everyone here on the webinar, all of our guests who are not driving, I want you to get into chat and answer this question for me. Does it feel intimidating to think about coming up with 50 content things, like one a week
Yeah.
the next year.
Yeah.
Raise your hand. I'm raising my hand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any tips or hacks for
Oh
that?
yeah. Well, when it comes to, so let's say you have this agent list. Let me just kind of lead up to that. Following what we do at Vyral, and the Vyral system is you send a reconnect email. Hey, we know each other in real estate. I'm writing you because I think you know me. We know you. We've done a deal together. But I just want to let you know that I'm stepping up to start answering some of the most commonly asked questions our agents ask us all the time about how to sell houses and make money.
Mhm.
And I'm answering these questions for them, and I want to share those same answers with you because I think you could find them helpful, and I'd love to send them to you. I send a couple. I'm going to publish a couple every month, and if you don't want to receive them, go ahead and unsubscribe. I look forward to staying in touch and just kind of maybe earning your trust as someone that might be able to help you grow your business at some point, someday, whenever you might be open to it. Via.
Mm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That email goes out, right? Something like that to kind of reconnect with the list. And then, yeah, you sit down once a month and you start asking yourself this question: what are the two biggest questions? Actually, we can have some fun in the webinar.
Okay.
In the
Should I
chat. Yeah, in the chat. What's the number one question you're getting from your agents right now? Write it. What is the number one question right now in December you are getting, your agents are asking you? Put it in the chat. What is the number one question that the agents on your team, the agents in your brokerage, the agents that you're coaching,
everyone's saying?
the agents that are actually asking? And write the question as they actually ask it. Don't even overthink the question. What is the question phrased exactly as they ask it? And
Here's
feel free
mine.
to write.
This
Yeah.
week while everyone's typing, because we're doing our business planning next week. And so it's basically, how can I sell X amount of homes next year?
Perfect. Okay. So I'm not going to look at the questions. They're going to show up over here, and feel free to write more. Don't change the topics. Our job is to supply demand. Okay.
Yeah.
These are the questions the market is asking. That's what they're demanding. Just literally title the video or title the topic or title the blog, whatever, podcast, literally that question. Don't overthink it. And send that out with your answer. And you'll have a perfect message to market match of supplying the demand of content that people want. And the audience will constantly ground you and pull you down to what they want to know if you keep going in a Q&A style with your content.
Okay, so for those of you who are driving and for Frank, so here are some of the questions. Free lead sources, hot leads. How can I get more listings? How to
Great
get
topic.
leads for 2025?
Great.
How to turn the leads into buyers and sellers, so conversion. How do I get more listings? How can I break into luxury? Yeah, I get that one a lot. How do I break
Great.
into luxury real estate leads? Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, gold. So there's your topics.
Yeah.
And I'd recommend you just maybe, hey, this is Via. I get asked this question all the time from our agents X. I'm going to share maybe 3 key insights or 3 key points to answer it for you today. I hope you find it helpful. And if you ever want to take a call with me to talk about growing your business, I'm available. You can go to my website and book one.
Yeah, that's my life. You just described you just gave everyone my secret formula. That's it. You give people value, you teach them things, and then you try to get together with them and get in relationship. That defines.
Yeah, what you have is you have this, you're kind of building your database, your agent list, and you kind of reconnect with your existing list. And then you start teaching. You go from salesperson to teacher. You start teaching. You start answering questions. You start just giving and explaining. I got to be honest with you too. It's not so much this like amazing knowledge you're laying down. It's more that you're giving people an opportunity in a safe space at night and weekends, whatever, to like spend time with you online and get to know you.
It's
As you
almost
lay
like they're
down.
getting a glimpse of you coaching, because a lot of the answers and a lot of times when I'm doing these videos, it's like I did a couple last week and I was like, hey, I've been to your point, like I've been getting this question a lot. And it's almost like a glimpse of what a one-on-one with you would be like. It's not even teaching all the time. It's more like, this is how I answer that question to my agents, and you talk, and then the agent is seeing that and they're like, oh, I like the way that person, I like the way, Bridget or Christopher answer or
Yeah.
Ricky answer that question. I think I might, if I was going to meet with
Make a phone call.
anybody, I might meet with them. Yeah.
You like that person. I spent, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, them online watching their videos,
Yeah.
been on their webinars.
They've
So
already decided.
now, yeah, so now how do you get the appointment? So let's say we build this email list of agents, sourcing.
Mhm.
After reconnecting, we start publishing to it, answering these commonly asked questions of stuff they actually want and they're asking, and we do it in a good way at a good frequency. Now, all we have to do is just call them and ask for an appointment, specifically the people that are watching it, which can arguably be tracked of who's engaging. Just saying, you can have an assistant reach out saying, hey, hey, it's Frank Klesitz. I work for Vija. I see you subscribe to some of her helpful webinars she publishes in her videos. Just want me to know, would you have any interest in talking to her about going over your 2025 business plan? She'd love to do a free coaching call with you. Would you like me to schedule one?
Yeah.
And people will say yes if they've been watching this stuff. Oh, that's kind, and you get the appointment. So it's so much more easier to call someone to ask for an appointment than they've been consuming your content to get to know you online. If you're going in for an appointment to someone that has like never heard from you and hasn't spent much time with you, it's just so much friction to get them to meet with you and even make that meeting productive.
I mean, it's a cold call versus a warm call, right?
Yeah, the content warms up the list.
Mhm.
So when you put an offer in front of it, they take it. And one of those offers being a free coaching call. It could be come to my event, buy a ticket.
For
You
sure.
know? Yeah.
Enrique asked, do you recommend having multiple avatars we're going after? For example, I want to recruit up and coming agents to my team, but always want to get producers and team leaders to my downline. Yes. So yes, especially for you, Enrique, you're large already, right? Now,
Yeah.
a newer emerging team leader or brokerage leader on this call who's on their first, second, or third hire, no, probably not. They need to be very specific and, be cognizant of their time, but you already have an engine built in now. So we're always going to, recruit up and comers and agents that are thinking about getting licensed and newly licensed. But we're a little bit more where we're pouring more resources is into that low producing agent, which is kind of what we're going for. We get the others and we receive the others. We proactively go for our kind of that persona. And then with you, 40 going to 80 or 100, or I can't remember your goal, but you should have 2 to 4 that you're going for at a given time, which is why you do need to have multiple job ads going, and you need to have, there might be different processes. You're going to be more involved. The higher the production level, you're going to be involved. When it comes to a new agent, I don't meet them until they're hired, right? And so I have between my DOO and my business partner, they handle that. So your flow, your automations, your process might look different for each avatar. Michelle, yes, 100%. That I don't do any, my DOO does all of our screening. I should have pulled her on today. She's amazing. I actually have a thing about screens. So for those of you on this call who are team leaders or broker leaders, we are really good salespeople, and we will connect and bond with you, doggone it, in 30 seconds or less, come hell or high water. We are wired that way. We cannot help ourselves, right? So when we get on a screening call, that's what our natural inclination is. My DOO, on the other hand, is not wired that way. It's a little harder to connect and bond with her. She's a little bit more reserved than I am. So I like it when she is the one screening, because that's real life. And that's what they're going to have to bond with on the phone when they're calling, Joe Q Public and trying to get them to sell a home or responding to an incoming, lead or referral, right? So I actually like having assistants or DOOs do the calls and the screenings a lot. How they are rating our candidates and giving me information about those calls. And that tells me more, I think, almost than if I would have been the one screening. Now, Ben Kinney will come on and tell you that he disagrees. He thinks all of us should be doing our own call screening. So that's just a personal preference. I'm just looking here. Yeah.
Questions?
Any other questions, you guys, before we sign up, or do you want Frank? Frank's a marketing genius. Any questions for Frank, for me, for any of
I can
this?
show you guys an example
Yeah,
of
please.
like maybe
Want
what
to share your screen?
I'll pull up a website so you guys can pull it
Okay.
up here.
Sure.
Let me I'll show Jacqueline Smith stuff. JQUEM Smith leadership. Hang on.
Deb, I don't understand your question. All right.
I'm making sure I spelled her name right. Hang on before I put the chat.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what if Chris does or not. I don't know.
All right, guys, I'm putting in the chat JacquelineSmithLeadership.com. This is just an example of a recruiting blog. So what Jacqueline does, she runs job ads on Recruiter AI. She built a list of all the agents that know her or she would know. And I think has a plan to like stay in touch with all the agents the other side of the transactions. And the script is pretty simple. Hey, I publish training videos to train our agents on our team, and I want to share them with you. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Boom. Into the database.
Mm-hmm.
This is what she sends. They're right there.
That's great.
And the videos are the bait that go out to bring them back to the trap, which is this recruiting site of our value proposition and call to actions to show maybe why you've been more successful with her than with other people.
Okay, I want to show everybody one thing on here to just kind of tie it up and send it home.
Great question, by the way. Sorry, I saw her video. That's a good example.
Yeah. When we're, where I'm going with this, I think, when we're looking at avatars, okay, who do you think Jacqueline's going for on this topic? Hire an assistant. And I'm going to actually go so far as I'm going to go back to this. Okay. Which one of these do you guys think she's going after when she's sending out a video saying, are you at the point where you're looking for an assistant? Let's see. Sorry, I had to, yeah, rising star. That's exactly it. Rising star or even productive agent. Everyone has a different ceiling, right? Here's why I bring that up. The best way to attract your persona is, Frank talked about it earlier, but is to know what the biggest problems of that persona are and to answer those problems and answer those questions with your content. Right. So, Enrique, if you're gonna go after 3 or 4 different personas, you can do a couple things. You can just toggle your content, and it is what it is. The new agents aren't going to really be that interested in hiring an assistant. You're going to skip them that particular email, or whatnot, or target, or you can divide them into cohorts. You can tag them on your CRM. Whatever you want to do. But if you're hitting on you can use social media for that. If you're hitting on content for a particular persona, then you're more likely to attract that persona.
I will give you guys some topics here. These are some suggested topics. You don't have to use them. But if you're trying to come up with like what to publish to get people to pay attention to you, here's some good ideas. There you go.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, so if you scroll down the website, you see all we talked about point 3 or 4 value propositions are on there, right? So I think it's just a way to, you have your marketing, which is warming up your agent list, getting people to spend time with you online, know, like, and trust you, see you as an expert, a leader, a role model, a guide, a guru, whatever. Something that can help them. Lay that down, and then it makes when they'll reach out to you for an appointment, maybe. But when you reach out or someone reaches out on your behalf with your name because they've been consuming your stuff, it's just a catalyst that makes everything move to actually taking an appointment and treating you with your respect and having a productive meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you, Frank, for joining us from Thailand. I didn't know you were going to be here when I asked you, so that means a lot to me that you would take time out of your vacay to do this. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thanks for everyone else. If you guys want to keep this conversation going, it's my email's via@place.com, VIJA@place.com. Yeah, there's a URL for the course. What is it again, Matt? I think Matt put it on here. I can't remember what it is. It is recruit agents. What is it? Recruitagents.co, I think is what it is. Anyway, would love to see you on the course. Happy to talk to you guys about it, and happy recruiting. Thanks, Frank. Happy holidays
Thanks,
to
everybody.
everybody. We will see you next year, everyone. Okay, bye.